Tonka, grandfather, we come to you today. On this rainy day. We come to you with open hearts, good thoughts, clear minds. We come to you today in hopes that you listen to our prayers, you listen to our thoughts, that you spread your wings around each and everybody's family, friends, anybody that's struggling. If you could give them some guidance, some wisdom, some strength, some courage to keep going forward. Bless them with another good day. Let them know that you're still there with them. Take care of each and everybody's family that showed up here. Anybody struggling? Oh.
So, first of all, I want to thank you all for letting me come and speak to you today. Today I want to speak to you about change and responsibility. Before I do that, I want to tell you a little bit about my past. So I had struggled about 38 years with addiction, depression, anxiety, loss, PTSD, homelessness, one time for 2 years. I even tried to overdose. Because of my choices and my lifestyle, I was in and out of trouble and jail, which is why I'm able to speak with you here today. You see, a wonderful thing happened to me. I got arrested. Yeah, it seems weird to say, but because I got arrested, I was able to enter a group called community court here in Grace Harbor, and I became your first graduate of community court. Through that, I found resources and support and mentorship that helped me move through and become a better person. I started taking classes and quit making excuses for my life. You see, when you take responsibility for your life, it's when change happens. The things I'm going to talk to you about are simple, but not easy. During my time navigating community court, I was introduced to unlocking your potential. And I learned that I'm the only constant in my life, that I had been holding myself back, and all I needed to do was break the habit of being myself. That meant getting back to the basics. And one of the first things we learn as we grow up is our ABCs. Well, I had to get back to the ABCs of my life. And I needed to ask myself, what are the ABCs that I want and need in my life? Well, the A was awareness. What kind of person do I want to be? Who am I? What kind of parent? What kind of friend? Where do I want to see myself going? When am I wanting to get there? But the biggest thing I had to find was my why. Why am I doing this? When I found the why, the how started presenting itself. And it seemed like it was just taking the next right step. Well, my B was belief. The belief in myself that I had the capability to meet life's challenges. And then that brought me to the C. The C for me was consistent choices could change my circumstances. You see, the choices we make today will determine where we are in a year. And in the beginning of all this, I really questioned myself. I kept saying, failure's not an option, and you got this. Along my journey, I found a lot of help in programs, which most are represented here today. And I want to thank you for all you guys do for the community, but especially what you did for me. It matters. It reminds me of a story I heard along this path that I'm on, and it's called the Starfish Parable. Some of you may have heard this, but I want to share it with you here today. So an elderly gentleman was getting up for his morning beach walk. And as he came over the dunes, he saw that the beach had been littered with starfish, just thousands of starfish up and down the beach. And as he looked up and down, he just couldn't believe how many there were. Then he spotted this young boy down there who appeared to be throwing the starfish back into the sea. He walked up to the boy and he asked him, "Son, what are you doing? You can't save all of them. What does it mean to save just this one?" The boy looked up to the man as he grabbed another starfish and he says, "Well, it means a lot to this one," as he threw the starfish back into the water. Well, I want you guys to know all your support has meant a lot to this one. It's changed my life. It's changed everything about it. So I'm grateful that you took the time with this one person because it truly did change everything. Now I'd like to tell you about how it changed everything. So I am your first graduate of community court, but I'm also a basic mediator for the Dispute Resolution Center. I'm on the SUD Certification Advisory Committee for the Department of Health in the state of Washington. I'm on the Washington Fatherhood Council. I'm a trainer for the Dad's Moves program. I am the 5-county regional convener coordinator for the Family Youth System Partner Roundtable program. And I've opened a business called Growing Your Mindset, where I get to facilitate a class that I started with Unlocking Your Potential. I get to go to the National Federation for Families Conference in Chicago in November. And to hear me say that 8 years ago, I would have never believed it. Now keep in mind, I was 50 years old when this path started. So change and success is an option. It's an option for everyone. If you're willing to ask for the help, put in the work. Remember, to be someone you've never been You must do something that you've never done. If I had overdosed, none of this would have happened. And all the people that I've met along my way would have never received my gift. The people we impact will impact others. You never know just how much that impact will be. There are a couple thoughts I'd like to leave you with here today. When you take responsibility for your life, you take your power back. It doesn't matter whose fault it is. It's your responsibility to take that trauma, learn from it, and grow. It's not what happens to you, it's how you react to what's happening that matters. And inside every challenge of your life is a blessing or a lesson, if you choose to look for it. Thank you very much for letting me come share this part of my story. And in December, I'm going to have 8 years drug-free. Thank you all very much. Have a wonderful time here, and thank you everybody that's here.
Okay, everyone, this is some very basic Narcan training. Narcan is a medication that you use into the nose to revive someone who has overdosed from opioids. It does not work on other drug classes, it works on opioids, which includes opiates. So that is like most pain medications that you see, like non-Tylenol, but things like oxycodone, oxycontin, hydrocodone, Norco, Dilaudid, heroin, morphine, fentanyl, okay? So anything in the opioid class, this can help to revive and save someone's life. So I have some samples, if you guys would like to actually see what it feels like to depress them. But basically, to save someone's life, if you found them down, you stick this into their nose and depress it. That's it. It's very simple to do, and that's really all that there is to it. There are instructions in this kit on how to administer it. It's very simple. There are 2 doses per kit. Sometimes an overdose requires you to use 2 or in some cases more doses of Narcan or naloxone to bring someone back because we just don't know how much is in their system. And some of the more potent opioids out there, such as fentanyl, especially if it has other medications inside of it, can make things a lot worse and harder to bring someone and revive someone. So basically, to identify if someone is overdosing, right? Things that you would look for. If they are not responding to verbal commands, they're usually down. You can hear gurgling or not breathing very well. You can see bluing of the lips. You can see bluing of the fingertips, right? So those are signs that they're not getting enough oxygen, okay? So the first thing that you would do if you find someone like that is first try to get them to respond verbally with commands. If you know their name, say their name, or hey, are you okay? Speak loud and clearly. If that doesn't work, you can use some physical, not like you're going to be punching someone, but they'll call it the sternal rub. So you take your knuckles and you grind it on their sternum. It's not very pleasant, but it will wake someone up if they're not in like active overdose, okay? So from there, if they are not responsive, you would want to administer the Narcan and call 911 immediately, okay? You want to get EMS there as soon as possible. And in that time, there are also instructions in here on how to give rescue breaths if they are not breathing. Okay, it doesn't actually tell you to check for a pulse or anything like that. Primarily, you want to keep them oxygenated, okay? So that's rescue breaths. They usually say 2 fairly quick breaths and then 1 breath every 5 seconds. You want to see their chest rise, but you don't want to like spew air into them and have them possibly vomit on you. That's not good. So that's basically it. You stay with them. If they are not responding after approximately 3 minutes after the first dose of Narcan, give them another dose of the Narcan, okay? It's not going to harm them, even if they're not overdosing, even if it was someone that, say, had a heart attack. This medication is not going to harm them. It's not going to interact with anything that the hospital would do. It is a medication that basically kicks any sort of drug off of your opioid responders and replaces it with this. So it's not harmful. You can give multiple doses in a row. You wait about 3 minutes between doses. Is there any questions? Would anyone like to depress one of these? That's it. You stick it into the nose. You don't have to dig it in there. You literally put it up there and you just squirt it in. That is it.
So if you have to give another dose, you
Yes.
do it on the opposite side?
Doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter?
Does not matter. As long as you're getting that medication in them. That's the main thing. And of course, calling 911, right? 911 will often walk you through CPR if you have to give CPR, but most of the time, again, we're worried about oxygenating them and not necessarily pumping their heart, because most of the time their heart's still beating, it's just their respiratory drive is down. So you need to help them with breathing first. Anyone have any questions?
If they do respond
Yes.
to that,
Yes,
you should still call 911.
absolutely.
I would do that first and
yes.
have them on the way.
Yes, you call 911, as soon as they're not responding, call 911, and then while you have 911 on the speakerphone, while it's still ringing, administer this. This is the first thing you want to do, and then rescue breaths. And 911 will guide you if there's any CPR or anything like that required. The other thing that's really important to know about Narcan or anything to bring someone back is there are good Samaritan laws. So as long as you are in good faith trying to help someone out, it doesn't matter if you have drugs in your system or you have drugs on you, you will not get in trouble as long as you in good faith are trying to help someone. That's a law in Washington State, so you will not get prosecuted even if someone passes, as long as you're trying. CPR, even if you're not certified, does not matter. You will still be protected legally. So that's just an important piece because a lot of people worry about that. It's better to save a life or try to save a life than to not do anything at all. The other thing, if you do have Narcan or other forms of naloxone at home, even if it is expired, it can still be effective. The effectiveness may not be as potent, but anything is better than nothing. An expired dose is not going to harm anyone.
How long is the shelf life?
So at least what I have, it says February 2026, so a few years. In general storage principles, you don't want to get them soaking wet, you don't want to have them in blazing heat or freezing cold. But again, even if it's been in your car and it's been 120 in there, I would rather have you using it than not using it at all, just because you're worried, oh, I don't know if it's going to work. It's better to try than not, right? Any other questions? Would anyone else like to depress one of these and see how easy it is? So, naloxone can wear off depending on how long. Everyone is different, but we say between 30 and 90 minutes, and they can go back into active overdose.
So I heard that, like, if you get Narcan and you come out of an OD, a lot of times when somebody comes out of an OD, they go instantly into dope sickness if they have an active habit, and then they try and get well right away, and they do a bunch trying to power through it, and then the Narcan wears off, and then the other kicks in, and then you're dead.
That is true. That can happen.
So you might want to.
That is why, again, 911 is important in knowing how to use this and get people help, because EMS and the emergency department, they have tools that can help mitigate the effectiveness of this to bring people out in a more tapered way rather than just a shock to the system. So again,
I also heard that sometimes you need like a whole case to bring somebody out of a fentanyl overdose.
so that's another piece that I was trying to describe at the beginning, but it can take multiple doses. Every kit has 2. It might take more, which is why it's so important to also call EMS, because they're going to have it, and then when they get transported to the hospital, it's going to have it. It can take a lot of doses right now, especially with the potency of fentanyl, especially, like I said, if there are other drugs on board like alcohol, benzodiazepines, anything else that would depress your central nervous system can increase the effectiveness of the drug and decrease the effectiveness of this or make it require more of it.
Is there anything it like counteracts with that could hurt somebody?
No. So other than pain medication, other than an opioid-based pain medication, this is not going to harm anyone, as far as we know. Like I said, if you found someone down, they're not responding, you think it could be an overdose, but it's not, maybe it's a heart attack, and you administer Narcan or naloxone, it's not going to harm them or change anything that the hospital would do when they finally get there.
So when in doubt, use Narcan.
When in doubt, use Narcan. It's not going to harm them. I mean, Washington State has one of the highest overdose fatality rates in the country, and our rate is increasing. Grays Harbor County has one of the highest rates in the state, so we're up there.
Where do we get it?
Where do you get Narcan?
Yeah.
So That's a good question. There are websites in Washington State. You can go to stopoverdose.org, and they have I forget the link, but they have a link to a place where you can get it shipped to your house. I don't recall how many kits you can get, like annually or what, but they will send it to you. Also, there is what's called a standing order in Washington State. So if you have the money, and I believe Medicaid will also pay for a dose or two, you can go to the pharmacy and anyone can purchase this. They're working to make it over the counter, but right now it's still a prescription, and there's a standing order in Washington State, so you can go to any pharmacy and buy it.
Does Willapa Behavioral Health still do the syringe exchange and issue Narcan there? Or no?
I do believe so, yes. I think they might use the intramuscular version of naloxone, which again, same drug, just brand name.
Oh yeah.
So they might dispense that, but yes, they also do it and provide training.
Yeah, everybody. And then there's a drug that veterinarians use to anesthetize animals that
yes.
It does not work on.
So we are seeing something that you may have heard of, xylazine. It's an animal tranquilizer, and we are seeing maybe a little bit here, but we're seeing it mostly on the East Coast that's trending west. But they are cutting xylazine into fentanyl. So fentanyl, again, is an opiate, or an opioid, excuse me, and xylazine is a completely different class of drug. Narcan will not work on the tranquilizer. It will still help reverse the opioid portion of the overdose, but it will not necessarily work on the tranquilizer, which again is the reason why you would still call 911, why you'd still provide rescue breaths, and if they don't have a pulse, you would administer CPR, if you're comfortable doing it, of course, and under the guidance of the 911 operator.
But it will still, like, so...
It still makes a difference.
It absolutely makes a difference.
Absolutely makes a difference. And why it doesn't cover the whole thing, it covers half of it.
Absolutely.
And then you receive advice, and good advice is administer your first one, call 911. After 2 minutes, what do?
Administer again.
And you do it again. And that's
right.
how we do it. And that's how we save lives out here today. Like,
Absolutely.
That's how you do it. And it always makes a difference. It may not reverse it all, but it reverses some, and it will save their life until they can get there and help them.
That's right. Yeah, and it's, like I said, this is a no harm, no foul drug. It only works on opioids. So again, even if you take someone to the hospital, unless they're trying to give them like a morphine or some sort of pain medication, yeah, it's not gonna, that port's not gonna work. But pain doesn't kill you, right? Pain doesn't kill you. Not breathing, that will kill you. So always err that this is the safe route to go.
Hello everybody, what's up? Thank you for coming out to the second annual International Overdose Awareness event here in Hoquiam, Washington. Oh man, hey guys, we do recover and it's awesome that we do. First, I just want to say thank you to every single stand that you see out here that came to set up. This is a lot of resources in the mental health and recovery community. And for anybody struggling that feels like you're alone or hopeless, there's resources all over here for you. Make sure you go check out those tents. And to every single person that has dedicated their time and part of their life to actually come out here and try to make a difference for mental health and or recovery, thank you so much. All of y'all are so awesome and appreciated that y'all care about lives. So I'm gonna share a little bit about my story. I have my card over here. If y'all see the You Matter sign right on the front of this cart, I've been pushing this cart across America since January 1st, 2022, last year, with my feet in the Atlantic Ocean for mental health awareness and recovery. I walk in remembrance of the beautiful souls that have lost their lives to mental health and or recovery issues, and for the ones that are currently struggling with mental health and or recovery issues. I don't just walk because so many people are losing their lives and so many people are struggling. I walk as somebody that has personally been down that destructive lifestyle. The last 15 years of my life, I have dealt with addiction, depression, and a life of crime. I have tried to end it twice. I've overdosed numerous times. I've lost my heartbeat. I've had seizures. I've been in and out of county jail 11 times, in prison twice. The first time was 18 months. The second time was 5 years in prison. I I got out of prison on the 5-year sentence November 6, 2021, and then I took off on this walk across America on January 1st, 2022. I was out for less than 2 months before I took out on this journey. Now, it's crazy because what started with me wanting to walk across America had nothing to do with mental health and or recovery. It was 2013. I was doing a year in the county jail. I came up in Clay County, Florida. I came across a newspaper article titled "America on Foot" about a guy named Harrison Melanian who had walked from Tallahassee, Florida to one of the coasts in California. I fell in love with the story. You know, in jail, we didn't have TVs or anything. All we had was the newspaper. So, you know, I fell in love with reading the newspaper every day. And that was one of those stories that was so inspiring that I decided to keep the newspaper clip and everything like that. So fast forward early 2014, I get out from doing that year in the county jail. I get on Facebook. I find America on Foot. I send him a message. I was like, hey, I was in county jail. I read this article. I love it. Like, really, really cool. Can you tell me a little bit about it? It was a couple days later. I remember him reaching out on Facebook, and I thought it was a really, really cool thing. So he reached out, we talked a little bit about it, and he was like, man, this was a life-changing opportunity. I highly recommend it for anybody that ever has the opportunity and the availability to do it. The only thing I would have done different was walk for a cause. And I was like, ooh, that's good. I was like, okay, cool. So after I'm done talking to him, I get on Facebook, and this is still 2014. I put a post on Facebook. Hey, guys, I'm thinking about doing a walk across America from Florida to California. You know, but I want to do a walk for a cause. Does anybody have any good ideas? And a bunch of people were just commenting stuff. And, you know, my heart, at that point, I liked the idea of wanting to walk across America, but not actually wanting to walk across. And it's crazy because I can relate that with addiction. There was so many years that I liked the idea of wanting to get clean, the idea of restoring relationships and stuff like that, but I just wasn't ready to change. I wasn't ready to give it up. So even though I liked the idea, I obviously didn't really want it because I continued down that lifestyle. So I try to put together this walk for 2 totally different causes. I tell everybody I'm going to take off January 1st, 2015 with my feet in the Atlantic Ocean at Jacksonville Beach, Florida. Everybody I met in person, I would tell them, hey, this is what I'm going to do. I'm walking across America for these causes that are completely irrelevant to what I'm walking for now. The only issue is I was still on the drugs. I was still living a criminal lifestyle. I still didn't care about myself or the people around me. I was still living a destructive lifestyle. Like I said, I liked the idea of wanting to walk across America, but I did tell myself that I was going to do it one day. So a little bit later in 2014, I ended up getting arrested. I got put on probation. Some crazy things happened, and that set me back from being able to take off January 1st, 2015. To go walk across America. So I decided, hey, you know, I'm going to finish my probation. I'm going to push this walk back 6 months. I'll take off either June or July, and then we'll, you know, go from there. So January 1st, the original day that I was supposed to start my walk across America, I ended up homeless in some woods in a place called Penny Farms, Florida. It's like a retirement community. There wasn't much there, but there was a brick building that had a salon shop and a post office. The girl I was dating at the time, her grandma owned the salon shop, and I used to sleep in there sometimes, but I didn't. That night I didn't have the keys, so I ended up going into the lobby of this post office on New Year's Day. I wanted to fall asleep, but I didn't want anybody to come and check their mail and then call the cops on me. So it turns out the little teller booth was open, but the post office was actually closed. So I went in there, and next thing you know, I turn around, I see all this mail, I see Christmas cards, I see Christmas presents. And then I just started taking everything. I called somebody to come pick me up. I went back the very next day to break into the post office again, and that's when the FBI, the Secret Service, and all the cops came, and I went to prison. I ended up getting a slap on the wrist, very, very blessed. God was with me through that. I ended up doing 18 months with probation. I ended up getting out of prison early because of a boot camp program that I went through. I was doing really good, but still my mind wasn't in the right spot. Still in the back of my head, I was like, man, I can't wait to get back and, go meet up with the wrong crowd and go do the wrong thing. I would tell my family what they wanted to hear, but I wasn't living like that. You know, it's a crazy thing because it's nice to hear when somebody tells you that they're proud of you, but it's different whenever you can tell yourself that you're proud of yourself, because anybody can play the game or fake it till they make it to get somebody to say that they're proud of them, but in the end, they're not proud of themselves. So when you can say that you're proud of yourself, it's a really big deal. But, you know, there was so many times that my family thought they were proud of me and would tell me, and I thought it was cool, but I still wasn't living the right lifestyle. So, like I said, ended up going to prison. That stopped me from walking across America back in 2015 for the totally different causes. So I still struggled. I got out, was on probation. I violated my probation 3 times. It boiled down to me getting a bond on a violation of probation 5 days before Christmas, which doesn't really ever happen. And I got a bond, and an officer that had picked me up on another violation of probation before calls me, and he's like, hey man, I don't know how it happened, but you have a bond. I'm gonna come there in a couple days. I'll give you time to get the money, so you can try to get out and enjoy your Christmas. So from there, I was out on bond. They wanted to send me back to prison. They wanted to send me to rehab, and then I go to court, and then one day my judge just like, he just dropped my probation to give me a chance, you know, and that stuff like that didn't happen. But it happened to me, and I still took advantage of it because that judge said, I don't want to see you back in my courtroom, and it was just a couple months later that I was back in there about to go do 5 years in prison. But 2017, this was a really big point in my life. Not proud of it whatsoever, but 2017, at my family's house back in Clay County, Florida, me and a couple other friends, we took a bunch of things that we didn't need to be taken. And we were in my parents' house, completely disrespectful. It was like 2 in the morning. We had left, we came back, we're causing a bunch of noises. My parents asked my friends to leave, and I had an issue with it. I was completely in the wrong. It boiled down to my dad going to swing a guitar at me. My dad's disabled, and he went to go swing a guitar at me. I ducked, and it hit my mom in the nose 2 days before Mother's Day in 2017. And when I seen the blood leaking out of her nose, like, I took off on my dad, and it really ended up bad. It ended up I had to do mouth-to-mouth and chest compressions. My mom was on the phone with the cops. Me and my dad have a good relationship today. It was a couple years after that before like we restored that relationship, but I'm a firm believer in restoring relationships when you get your life right. So I ended up going back to, or that happened, I was homeless. So while I was homeless, I was doing crazy things. Me and 2 other people went and kicked in a drug dealer's door that had just been robbed the month before, so they had hidden cameras inside their house, and we ended up getting busted. That, and then my mom was the manager of a storage facility that I was sleeping in her storage unit for a while. I decided to break into a bunch of the units at her work and took somebody's like $20,000 guitar collection, and I just did a lot of crazy stuff that I'm not proud of. That led me to doing 5 years in prison, another slap on the wrist because I had just got out of prison 18 months earlier, and if you get out in prison where I'm from within 3 years and you catch a serious charge, they have every right to file something called the Prison Release Reoffender Act. And if they file that, you have to do the minimum mandatory with no gain time or anything. So I remember one day my public defender calls me on a little Polycom TV screen, and she was like, hey, the state's attorney's talking about filing PRR. You're looking at doing 15 years day for day. And I hung up. I was like, no, you got me messed up. Hung up on her. Next thing you know, I go to court and I end up catching 5 years with gain time. That was another slap on the wrist because I had just caught in a bunch of felonies. I don't have a good record. Not proud of it, but it did make me who I am today. So fast forward, I'm doing my 5 years in prison. I'm still playing with my time. I'm bringing stuff in from outside of the gate, doing drugs here and there in prison. And don't let anything get it twisted. Prison is a place where you can get whatever on the streets just as easy. It is not a place to help people struggling with addiction because it's in your face. And there you might go to confinement for a few days. You don't catch another charge when you're locked up most of the time. So one thing I learned is it's not about who to go to, it's about what bunk in the room you got to go to. And so it's all around you. You can't escape it. One thing I learned is that when it comes to recovery, you really got to want it.
Amen.
My judge, when I got sentenced to that 5 years in prison, my mom raised her hand in the courtroom. I had character reference letters. So my mom was standing up there with me. She raised her hand and said, "Your Honor, can I say something?" The judge was like, "Yeah." He's like, "I know you're sentencing him to 5 years in prison, but will you please, please, please sentence him to rehab afterwards?" And I'm looking at my mom like, "Come on, I already got to do 5 years. Like, I don't need to do no more time." But the judge, you know, he was on my side, but not for the reasons that I wanted. I didn't want to do extra time. The judge looked at my mom and said, "Hey, check it out. He's been on probation before. On numerous times. He's been in inpatient rehab. He's violated every single time." I had a bunch of character reference letters. There's people that knew me before I was ever a user or abuser, or knew what my heart was when I wasn't living that lifestyle, that knew I was kind of a decent person deep down. So with those character reference letters, the judge knew that I had it in me. And he told my mom that I'm not going to sentence him to rehab. Yes, we sentence people to rehab. Yes, a support system is great, but it means absolutely nothing if you're not ready to get right. And I didn't think about that right then. I just thought about the fact that I'm not going to rehab when I get out of prison. You know, I'm getting right to the streets. But 2.5 years into that prison sentence, after playing with my life, playing with my freedom, getting in fights, being crazy, something clicked. Now, like I said, I've dealt with depression. I tried to take my life when I was younger. I used to be really, really heavy, and I had no self-esteem. I was very depressed because of my weight, and I didn't like it. So between all the drugs and being out running with my buddies for years, like, I had lost a lot of weight. I had a fake sense of self-confidence while using and abusing. And it's crazy because that time in prison, I gained a lot of weight back, and the buddies that I talk to, the acquaintances you have, and they're the ones that you call your boys, your friends in prison or whatever, the ones that I talked to were the people that worked out the most elite people on the compound, and they would ask me to go out there with them, and I never would. And it boiled down to, I got a nickname, and my nickname was BBK, and that stood for Bad Bodied Kyndal, because I had gained so much weight, and I hated it. But they all thought it was funny. I would joke around with them, but deep down I did not like it. So it was the same people inviting me to go out there and change my life. So I decided one day to actually go out there. Now, I went from when I started with these guys doing like a 12-minute mile running to like the fastest mile I ever did with them was 5 minutes and 57 seconds. I went from being able to barely do 10 push-ups to 100 burpees straight, and I learned what I was capable of when I put my mind to it. I learned mind over matter. I learned what self-discipline and self-motivation is. I started doing things I would have never done before. I wrote down goals. There was one period we had these little mirrors, like yay big in prison, that for 60 days I wouldn't even look in the mirror. I wrapped my goal sheet around my mirror. I would not look at myself for 60 days because I wanted to see what the improvement was like, and it was insane. And I felt so good about it. So that was a lot of my life change. I started reading my Bible every day. I started meditating. I was already working out. Just got on a whole grind. I felt so good about myself. I loved the person that I was becoming. Fast forward, I'm doing a year in work release, my last year in work release. If you're not familiar with work release, I stayed at a facility. I was still a product of prison, but I had an ankle monitor on. I got to wear real clothes. I had a cell phone. I just had to stay at this facility every night. I had a 2-hour bus ride to work every day and a 2-hour bus ride back, and I had to go to work. I had to call them when I left, everything like that. They keep like 90% of the money that you earn. It stinks, but hey, I had to go through it. It was a part of my life. Now, while in work release, it was, there was this girl that I was talking to, and she was coming to see me for my job. She was in the free world at the time, and she was coming to see me, and I really liked her, and I thought things were gonna happen and all this, that, and the other. Well, it turns out the father of her child was in prison at that time too, and when she was talking to me, well, he ended up getting out of prison. She leaves me to go back to him. Unfortunately, both of them and one other person have just pled guilty to second-degree murder recently. So it's just crazy how things worked out, and it's just a super, super sad situation. But I kind of dodged a bullet, literally, and just so thankful for where I'm at, that didn't work out. Because when that didn't work out, I was like, well, what am I going to do when I get out of prison? Like, you know. And then there was this canvas of the 7 continents. I did telemarketing, and it was in my office. And I remember seeing the United States, and I took a pencil, and I was like, wow, I was going to walk from Florida to California. I was like, man, I was crazy. And then I was like, hold on, I still want to walk across America. And then I was like, but not to California. I need more of a challenge, because I started working out, and then I learned that I could push myself hard and overcome so many obstacles. So I decided to change it from California to Washington. And I posted it on Facebook. I said, hey guys, I'm thinking about doing a walk across America for mental health awareness and recovery. And the reason I picked those causes is because every single day on Facebook, it was another post to another loss of life, to an overdose and or a suicide. And, you know, and a lot of people that were on my Facebook at that time, you know, it's acquaintances and things like that, just way, way too familiar. So when I decided to put it together and mention it, like, everything fell into place. It just seemed like everybody came out with these ideas to try to help me. And then I realized, you know what, I want to remember people out here. I want to remember people on a shirt. So I wear these shirts. I have 4 editions now. Each edition of the shirt is 180 beautiful souls who have lost their lives to drug overdose and or suicide. So even though they aren't with us, they are still being remembered and getting the journey of a lifetime, where the 180 specifically stands for taking a 180-degree turn in the opposite direction from the things that are taking the people that we love and care about. Every edition is super heartbreaking to do. I hear a lot of sad stories, but the thing about that is almost every single community that I have been in, walking through 13 different states and over 3,600 miles now, I've had somebody in almost every community tell me just how their town is the worst for drugs, or how, you know, they've had somebody close to them. I hear sad stories every day, and it does take a toll on me sometimes. But I'm out here for a reason, because I'm a firm believer that my past does not define me. I'm a firm believer that your past does not define you. It's crazy, because if karma was supposed to do everything it was supposed to do, I promise you I wouldn't be standing here right now. So that really proves to me that my past doesn't define me, because I can stand here right now as a 13-time convicted felon, living as free as I can. And the beautiful P&W at that is crazy out here. I love it out here. But no, seriously, guys. I put my feet in the Pacific Ocean in Long Beach, Washington, to complete coast-to-coast walking across America for mental health awareness and recovery on April 12th this year. That was also my 4-year drug-free date. So that was just like a big icing on the cake. Thank you, I appreciate that. So I'm in recovery myself. I've tried to take my life. I'm still here. I believe that every single one of y'all matter. If there's anybody out there today that is dealing with any depression and or suicidal thoughts, I want to let you know that whether I know you or not, I love you. I care about you. You matter. You have purpose. Thank you for existing today. I hope that things get better and that you get to go out there and enjoy your life to the best of your ability, because you deserve it. I also want to encourage anybody that has any negativity in their life, even if it's people close to you, you can love and care about people from a distance. You deserve to have your own peace of mind, because mental health matters. Y'all all matter, and we do recover. I want to lay down some statistics for you. This is Overdose Awareness event. Fentanyl's dropping people like flies, guys. It's so real. You know, it's a hard subject to just go talk about openly in so many places. But we're going to lay down the statistics from August 2021 to August 2022. There was 106,200 plus people that have lost their lives to overdose alone. And this is how I'm going to compare that. The 3rd biggest stadium in the world, the 1st biggest stadium in the United States is the Big House. That's the Michigan Football Stadium. The Michigan Football Stadium, the full amount that it holds, I don't know the number right off the top of my head, but it's like 106,400 something people or 200 something people. The approximate amount of overdoses was less than 300 different. from the amount of people that the biggest stadium in the United States holds at one point. And if you ever seen a picture of that stadium with all those people standing there, it's a very scary thought to look at. And they say that 70 to 80% of those were fentanyl related, guys. It's something so real. It's out there. Please be careful. Not to ever glorify what I ever did back in the day, but even whenever I was using socially back in the day, it's not the same today. Today you have to worry about losing your life or losing your heartbeat or something like that. It's not a fun game to play. Not that it was back then, because I had way more bad times than good times on it. Like I said, I've most of my adult life locked up. Like I said, my past doesn't define me. It has a very strong hold on a lot of people, but I'm a firm believer that you can overcome. Like I said, your past does not define you. So I just pray today that if you are struggling, that those chains and bondage is broken in Jesus' name. And thank y'all for letting me share, guys. Thank y'all for letting me be out here in Hope Queen. Share the story. If y'all ever see me on the side of the road pushing that cart with that You Matter sign, man, please honk, please stop, say what's up. I'm flying out to Utah on the 7th to go run a 5K with a group called Addicts to Athletes, and then I'll be back. I plan on crossing over into Oregon sometime early October. I'll be walking down the coast of California, eventually back over to Florida, eventually up the east coast of Maine. This is not a short-term journey. I will be documenting my whole life between Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, Patreon, and a few other places. If y'all want to follow the journey, that cart right there, there's some things on it that you can follow, or you can come up to me after. I have cards. I don't have that many cards left. I also have merchandise that helps me fund the journey, and they're bracelets, and it's more than merchandise, it has meaning. Every single bracelet says hashtag a walking testimony. That's the name of the journey. That's who I am. On the other side, they either vary from hashtag You Matter or hashtag We Do Recover. They're just a donation apiece, whatever you feel led. It does help keep the journey going, so I can continue to go. Lodging as needed, food as needed, things like that. Either way, guys, please never ever forget that you matter, that we do recover, that God is good all the time, even in the bad times, that there's always a situation to learn from, that we should not think, why is this happening to me, but how can I use what I'm going through to grow and become a better person? Thank you. God bless.
All right, what we're going to do, it's a hard act to follow with this fellow over here. So we're going to just each say some things about our own journey and our own experience in recovery and that sort of stuff. We're going to start off with Daniel here. You introduce yourself and tell us something.
My name is Daniel. I'm from the Cat. A little bit about myself and my background. A couple years ago, you wouldn't have seen me here. I was really far gone. I was at risk of overdose myself, and I had a lot of friends die from overdose in the last couple years. And it's affected me pretty tragically. And I would just encourage everybody to learn how to avoid learn how to revive people if need be, and carry a case of Narcan in your car, and just have it readily available. Thank you.
Hey, you did good.
No.
Yeah, you did, bro.
Hi, I'm Cassie. I've been with CAT for about 4 years. I'm working with the jail reentry program.
Come on.
So originally I come from North Carolina. I've been here since I was about 11 years old. I have a little bit of history of homelessness and addiction on the streets. I've never been a victim to OD myself, but I have been a friend to a lot who have OD'd, or most of them will come back, some of them have not. Like I said, I work with CAP now, so I mean, I love my job. I get to work with the jail reentry people coming in and out of the incarcerated system, people dealing with mental health, substance use, that kind of thing. and just being able to be there and give back and help support and everything like that has been a passion of mine ever since I got clean.
Amen. Come on, sister.
All right, so I'm done for now. I'm going to introduce Sunshine.
You go, sis.
So my name is Sunshine. I've lived and grew up in Grace Harbor County my whole life. I was a heroin addict, meth addict. I got a lot of family out here, brothers who are still addicted to fentanyl. And 4 years ago, my mom passed away from an overdose of heroin. She was on life support. It's really tough. My mom was my best friend. And I've been through a lot with that, and with my brothers. I've been clean 9 years now, and hardly ever re-entered for a year, 6 months I've been in CAP, and I'm just really passionate about what I do and where I came from. I know that my addictions and my past don't define me, but it is who I am, and where I am today is because of everything that's happened in my life. I'm just here for anybody who needs the help and wants to reach out. I'm here for you guys.
Give it up for these folks right here. So these guys are all pretty phenomenal, man. They're the salt of the earth.
Amen.
And are great at everything they do, including this right here. Yesterday, I guess a speaker was supposed to show up and had something else they had to do, and these guys volunteered were voluntold to share a piece of their story today. My name's Cash McCall. I work over in CAP too. So a little piece of my history is I grew up here in Grace Harbor at about 13. I discovered heroin and loved it. Loved every bit of it. And continued to love it for a couple decades. I ran all around the country, hopping freight trains and hitchhiking and sneaking on Greyhounds. They do not pay attention to who has a ticket when you get on those buses. And I went all over this country, trying out all kinds of different drugs, and it was a blast, right? When I was a kid. And then there was a point where it wasn't a blast anymore, right? The first time I OD'd on heroin, I was about 15, and another person using got me to the doctor and kept me alive. The second time I OD'd, and this gentleman over here was talking about drugs in prison. The second time I OD'd was in Washington State Penitentiary. Way better drugs in prison. I'm just going to throw that out there. They don't mess around and bring in like the garbage dope in the joint. You get the really good. The third time I overdosed, I was in Denver, Colorado, shooting dope in a hotel bathroom. Over the course of my life, I've seen I don't know how many friends and family I've seen die from addiction, and I don't know how many times I've been looked down on and sped on and pushed to the side and not treated properly in a medical facility because of my addiction. And very rarely did anybody stick out a hand to help me up. Very rarely did anybody demonstrate that they give. And that's what we try and do right now, right? We try and let people know that we're people that have experienced addiction. We continue to struggle with addiction, and we do whatever we can to make sure that people out there in the world, especially in our community that suffer from addiction, know that there's at least 4 people right here that give and are willing to do whatever we can to connect people to the things that bring them to the other side of addiction. Overdose can touch any one of us, right? We're seeing that now all over the news with the fentanyl epidemic, but this ain't new, right? This is stuff that's been around since like, what's the dude's name that used to like go on the silk trade to China and all that? Marco Polo or whatever. Like people been dying from opiates for thousands of years, right? And now we live in a time with social media and with like a new kind of power where people that care about treating addiction and loving each other and bringing each other to the other side of addiction, we live in like a time where it can be more real, right? And we can unite in different ways at events like this and share our stories, and we can affect real change, right? We can share Narcan resources on our Facebook profile, right? We can, is that how Facebook works?
And you.
I know Sunshine was saying that she's available to talk to. I mean, I think everybody around this circle, half circle, all these different resources, most of these folks are people that have experienced some form of addiction or mental health crisis or some form of something that brought them to this work. So the worst thing that we can do when we're suffering is just remain quiet and think we're alone. Not a single one of us is alone. There's not like a unique form of pain that other people haven't felt before, right? It just manifests in different ways. And if you're hurting, if you're struggling, and you reach your hand out to any one of these people around here, the chances are you're going to get the help you need. I know we all have, maybe we all don't have family, but I have family that's out there right now potentially ODing. My sister and my best friend growing up, my ace Deuce, told me not too long ago she was talking about fentanyl. And I was asking her about like how do you keep yourself safe? And she had like this whole, she described to me like when you take a hit of fentanyl, the reason why people OD when they're smoking fentanyl is that like they're getting high. See, fentanyl came around after I got clean, so I don't know a lot about it. But she's saying like you take a hit of fentanyl and then you start to nod a little bit, and then your body naturally keeps breathing the smoke in, and that's what kills you, is what she's telling me. And I'm asking her like, well, how do you stay safe then from that? Like, how do you not be the person that ODs if you're taking a hit and you're nodding out and then you continue to inhale? And she said, I just stop inhaling right before I nod out. And this makes so much sense to her, right? She's like, I'm completely safe because I am more responsible of a drug addict than anybody else. And this is like a highly intelligent, beautiful, wonderful person that thinks that like she's different and she's unique from everybody else that's doing the exact same thing she's doing. Overdose is super real. Overdose happens to children in our schools now. Overdose happens with one person trying a Oxycontin for the first time, and it turns out that maybe an 80 milligram Oxycontin is a little bit different than a 5 milligram Vicodin, and they find that out in the morgue. There's a couple people that I want to mention by name so they can be remembered. that died this year and late last year, and that's Sean Shapansky is one of them. Grew up, he's a very close friend of mine. We grew up as brothers. He's my cousin, fresh out of the joint, doing good for a hot minute, and then got caught up again, was doing great, man. All that kid ever wanted was a family, a wife, and some kids, and instead he's in the ground behind overdose. Another name that I want to mention is Ricky Robinette. Yeah, Ricky Robinette, man, a freaking badass bass player. I don't know if you were hanging out around here in the 80s and remember Septic Sewer, but those guys were, yeah, man.
Yeah, exactly what you're talking.
And Ricky struggled with mental health. He struggled with drug addiction, like a lot of us. He was clean for stretches of time, and then he relapsed and go back into addiction, and then he was clean, and then he'd go back into addiction, and then he was clean, and then he was dead. I don't know what else to say up here other than everybody carrying Narcan in your pocket. Good job and thank you.
Amen.
Anybody that has a cell phone in your pocket, if somebody's laying on the ground non-responsive in front of you, use that freaking cell phone. And another really important thing that we all need to think about and that we all need to do is when we see people laughing at the people struggling in the street, when we see our friends and family making comments that they don't know anything about, when they're saying, oh, look at that guy's a zombie, look at that guy's got this going on. Man, that's our job to remind our friends and family and children that those people are humans, that those people weren't born like that those people don't need to die like that, and that we need to give. So my part in that is I got 3 beautiful sons, and my sons know that humans are humans, right? They know that people struggling in the street are people struggling in the street, right? They're not scum, they're not zombies, they're not none of that. They're humans exactly like you and I, with a little bit of a different path that brought them to where they are at. And 10 years ago, I wrapped up a 10-year prison sentence. And before that prison sentence, I was one of those zombies. I was one of those people shooting dope every day, all day, and didn't care about much of nothing else. And today I get to be on the other side of that, right? I get to live. And I'm going to leave you guys with just one comment and one goal. All we need to do is love people until they get to the other side, right? All we need to do is try and keep people alive until the miracle happens.
Amen.
And thanks for letting us share.
Hello. So one of the first ways to tell if somebody's overdosing is if they're clammy, if their lips are blue, if they're gurgling, and if they're kind of like this dude right here. So what you're going to want to do is get down, rub the sternum, make some noise. Hey, hey, you alive? Smack them if you want a little bit. Rub the sternum. If they don't answer, this is injectable Narcan. I'm not going to hit you with it, bud. What you're going to do is you're going to flick the top off.
Hey, guess what?
You grab the needle, you shove it all the way in, push the air in, make sure there's no air left when you're pulling it out, and you're going to use it in their muscle. On their thigh right there, on top of their arm. Every 3 minutes, you can give somebody injectable Narcan. So it says on the internet. You wouldn't be calling 911 as soon as you hit them with it, as soon as you realize somebody's overdosing to get some help. You know, if you have kids around or anything like that, you can take the needle right off. Make sure you're putting the lid on it, so no kids are grabbing it. You want to call 911, tell the dispatch what's going on, and they're going to walk you through doing CPR and all that kind of stuff. If you need to.
You put the whole liquid in?
You put the whole liquid in. It says 1 milligram of it.
What happens if they don't wake up in a couple minutes?
Do it again. Yep. You can do it it says every 3 minutes you can give somebody Narcan.
Can you give them too much?
I don't think you can give them too much, no. I've known people that got hit with it 8, 9 times, maybe even 13. So.
Can you give Narcan to an animal?
You can give Narcan to an animal. You know, Narcan is not going to hurt the person. If the person is overdosing, it's going to wreck their high. So they might wake up kind of upset with you. So just be mindful of that and kind of give them a little bit of space when they're waking up. And also when they're coming through or when you're doing it, make sure you roll them on their side. Because if they start puking or anything like that, you don't want them to be choking on it.
Isn't it? Don't you go to instant withdrawal?
You do.
It's called precipitated
Yeah.
withdrawals.
The person will get really sick, get really mad.
Can the person slip back into an overdose after you've administered Narcan?
Yes, a person can go back into an overdose. They can be walking up just like I am right now, and then bam, go back right into an overdose. Anything else? Why? Because they have a bunch of dope in their system.
So the way that opiates affect you?
So the way that opiates affect your brain, you have sensors in your brain that are receptive to opiates, which are depressants, and then they also have stimulants. And so what Narcan does is it washes the opiate off of the receptor, but if you have an excessive amount of opiates in your system, it's like you wash your hands and then you walk around and you're in a dusty environment, your hands are gonna get dirty again, right? So that's why you have to really monitor them. Narcan is also not a substitute for CPR. If a person has no pulse, you need to immediately call 911 and start CPR. If you don't know how to do that, they have training classes online that you can go to, and I would encourage anybody who doesn't know how to get it.
There is a website. It's called stopoverdose.org. You can find people in our area that gives out free Narcan to you.
Where can you get Narcan?
You can get Narcan at the health department. You can get Narcan at Willapa Behavioral Health. You can get it at Destination Hope Recovery, I believe Quinault Wellness Center, and anybody that has Medicaid can go into a pharmacy, ask for Narcan, and they run it through your insurance for free. You all didn't know that.
Okay. Okay.
Anything else? Going once, going twice. Anybody that wants free Narcan can actually go into the pharmacy, and if they have Medicaid, you'll get free Narcan. They're running through your insurance.
How many doses they give you?
One box, and one box has 2 doses in it.
It's also very important, the little brown bags, the vials come in little brown bags, and you want to store them in dark places because the sunlight will actually decrease the potency of the Narcan. So it's really, really important not to have them in overly hot or overly bright environments.
Can you mix nasal and injectable Narcan?
Yeah, you absolutely can.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah.
So what?
The muscular kind, you're gonna hit anywhere with that?
Any large muscle. You want to stay to, so you obviously don't want to hit bone or any organ. So you don't, right? So the reason why you do it on the outside of the leg rather than the inside, because you could potentially hit the femoral artery, which could cause an entire mess of things.
Do it in the butt?
Yeah, absolutely. The butt works as well. Any large muscle.